Hi, I'm Lino from Otoy, and in this video we'll go through the new features available in Sculptron Alpha 3. Sculptron Alpha 3 starts with an empty scene, so what you can do is to load an object or use one of the meshes available in the Starter Objects menu. All those objects are pretty high poly. Let's load the icosphere object. Now we have this object loaded into our scene, and to start sculpting you can click on the sculpt icon here or press S. So as you can see now, a deform stack has been added to the object and a sculpt layer effect is parented to the deform stack. So now we can choose any tool, start sculpting, we can activate symmetry and use any available sculpting tool to modify our object. If we want to reset the shape of our object, we just have to click with the right mouse button on the morph attribute and choose reset. In this new version it's possible to animate any attribute, and that's true for the morph attribute as well. To start animating the morph, we need to click on the curve icon here. This will bring the attribute into the animation editor, ready to be animated. At this point all we have to do is to start using our tools, and we will see that a keyframe has been automatically created. This happens because we have auto key on. And yeah, if we move the timeline to frame 100, for example, and go on sculpting, we will have created a new keyframe. So now the effect is animated. Using the spacebar we can start and stop the animation playback. We can also create new keyframes using Control and the left mouse button, or selecting the track and using the create key option here. If we need, we can create an additional sculpt layer, clicking on the sculpt layer option, and now we'll be able to sculpt this layer. Of course, both are still active. If we want to animate the second layer, we need to activate the curve, and now we can create some keyframes. And now we have two different animated sculpting layers interacting. Now let's take a look at the environment options and PBR material options. I'm going to import an object, and as we can see, a material is automatically created and associated to this object. In the material slot you can see that this Nefertiti OBJ material 1 has been assigned. This is a matcap material by default, so if we click on it we can select different matcaps. Now we can load an HDRI image. I'm going to load this one, and if we drag this HDRI on the environment, we'll be able to see the HDRI projected on the environment. Still is not affecting the material since this is matcap. I'm going to use PBR material to take advantage of it. So let's add the PBR material and let's assign it to Nefertiti. So now we're taking full advantage of the HDRI lighting and reflection. We can rotate the environment, but also choose not to see it on the backdrop and use, you know, any color we like, even black maybe. Still, you know, we'll be able to take advantage of the HDRI. And the PBR material here allows us to choose color, metallic, specular, roughness, and so on. Now let's talk about cache editing. We can import an MDD. We're using a pretty dense mesh composed by 700,000 polygons. Still, Sculptron can play this MDD in real time. Let's take a look at the wireframe of the model. You can see how dense this is. The Load MDD option automatically creates a deformed stack item and a vertex cache effect containing the path to the cache file. We're now ready to sculpt or add any effect to our object. So to add a sculpt layer, we can select the object, click on the sculpt icon, and we're ready to go. So I want the sculpt to be animated. I'm going to create an empty keyframe at frame 40, and I'm going to use the grab effect here to change the shape of my model. So now we have the effect animated in time. We can modify the tail here, and then why not go back to the default shape. To show how powerful the new deformation stack is, I will use a spherify effect. Now, when you add a spherify effect or any other effect, you will get the effect parented to the deform stack with all the options and an associated reference null, which, you know, it's used to basically move the effect around. So you can see that now I can decide where the spherify is affecting the mesh. And since this is happening after the vertex cache, that's what we get. If we now move the spherify effect before the vertex cache effect, the spherify will only act on the base mesh. So I'll disable the vertex cache and I'll move the spherify here. Now if I enable the vertex cache again, we will see that the spherify stays in place because it's affecting the mesh in its rest position. I will now add a transform effect to the mix. The transform effect uses two different references. One to define the setup coordinates of the pivot of the effect, and the other one it's used to animate the effect. So as you can see now, if I animate this null here, I can move, rotate and scale the result of the previous deformers. And also in this case it's very important where we place the effect. Let's move it before any other effect. So now you can see how the MDD is acting differently. We can basically let's reset the rotation, let's reset the scale and also the position. Okay, so I can only, for example, rotate, and now since the MDD cache comes after the transform, we get this result. Again, if we move the transform after the other effects, we'll be able to rotate the direction in which the character is walking. We're using several effects on some pretty heavy mesh, and this really shows how powerful the Sculptron engine is. Let's now take a look at the new volume options in Alpha 3. To show that, I will use the toroid from the starter objects menu. So yeah, we added it to the scene. I didn't want to scale it. We can press F to center the object in the view, and I'm going to add a volume item. Now if I parent the toroid to the volume item, its shape will be converted to a volume. I can now hide the object so we can see only the volume. Click on the volume, we can access all the volume options, like the resolution, for example. And yeah, we can sculpt the object. So let's use the grab here. It's a pretty heavy mesh, so probably we can lower down the resolution to the default value. It was 10. Back to the skull layer, and now you can see that I can sculpt the mesh pretty quickly now. I can now increase the resolution again, because I want to use a noise generator. The noise generator can be dragged into the volume noise or SDF noise attribute. Let's drag it into the volume noise to start. I'm going to change the min to 0. Also, I'm going to change the density. I want to increase it like 40, and also the light amplitude can help to make this cloud look brighter. Yeah, something like that. And yeah, we can play with the noise generator attributes. So this is pretty fast. We can change the scale on any axis. Increase the number of octaves. But at this point, I think I'm going to increase the resolution to 100. Yeah. Let's add another noise generator, and this time we're going to drag it into the SDF noise slot. The volume resolution is pretty high, so it may take a while. So I'll change it to like 25 to get, faster feedback. So you can see changing the SDF amplitude is giving us different results. I like this one, so yeah, we can go back to some higher resolution. This is 50, 100 again. Again, this may take a while. We can also change the lighting direction, the pitch and the heading. It's pretty cool. Or increase the density again. Yeah. You have a pretty cool representation of our volume in OpenGL. We can now export our VDB. We can then import the VDB into Octane standalone for the final render. Any question you may have about Sculptron, please just ask on the Autoi forums or on the Octane Group Facebook page. Thanks.